in that transaction was hope, was community, was saying, hey, it's going to be all right. We're thinking about you.
The world is in need of a different kind of leader. Every leader must answer the question, am I a serving leader or a self-serving leader? How are you leading in today's society? You're watching the show for a reason, and joining us are the greatest servant leaders of our society. Welcome to the Servant Leadership Show, where we discuss and implement servant leadership in our day-to-day lives and the impact it has on others. Welcome to episode 5 of the Servant Leadership Show. I have my good friend, Mr. Tim Kahle. Tim Kahle has been a great inspiration to me. When I was restarting my business, I found the Communion Cooperative, which is Tim Kahle's the owner of the Communion Cooperative, as well as Ironwood Landscaping and Irrigation. As you guys know, co-ops are huge right now. They're allowing smaller businesses to thrive and grow and find their feet. And Tim has been a blessing to me and my family. He always gives the time of day whenever you walk past him. He's a super busy man, a great entrepreneur in the Richardson district. And Tim, welcome to the Servant Leadership Show.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here. So
awesome.
I'm excited.
Thanks, brother. I'm glad you're here, man. We've been able to grow a good relationship over the last couple years or so. And I'm so glad you're on the show. Thanks for being here. Tim, as I start every show off, and our viewers know as well, who was your role model growing up?
My role model when I was young, and still continues to be, my dad. I think in a lot of ways, generally focus on selfless acts, trying to serve others to the best of your ability, and do that with honor, integrity, and kind of master your craft. A lot of those things are inspiring. And then there's another man named Tiger Dawson that in kind of more of my middle years has been a steady inspiration of what selflessness really looks like.
Wow. So, I know. I remember when you guys were doing some remodeling of the co-op. Your dad's out there working. Doesn't matter how hot it is. He is like making it happen, right?
Indeed.
And he just does that because he wants to, right?
That's right.
I mean, he just loves serving serving the community.
Yeah.
And serving you.
Absolutely.
His son. He's a great role model.
I would say so.
This has been a challenging time for small business owners. COVID has hit a lot of businesses hard. Just if you don't mind, share with us a little bit of the impact it's had on you, like maybe from the beginning, in the middle, and where it is now.
Yeah.
We're about, just so our viewers know, we're about 3 months into COVID.
I'm going on 4.
Yeah, 4 months.
So March 21st, I think, is when the mandate started to come down and restrictions were created kind of in our municipality.
So tell me how that felt.
Well, I think I have a very unique perspective in that I have a landscape company, and then Communion is a conglomerate of multiple businesses. So we have a coffee shop and a restaurant and co-working space, a co-op space, and then events as well. So it's interesting to see how they all kind of took the hit differently. And as far as a business is concerned, naturally the restaurant got hit the hardest, and the coffee shop was kind of following, but we were fortunate enough to have a window, and the community really rallied. With the co-op co-working space, it was self-regulated because they were businesses that were, many of them were restricted, but if you were deemed essential, then you could still meet. So we didn't have to regulate that too much. It's self-regulated. And then events was kind of all out stop.
Yeah.
And with the landscaping company, it was really, we've picked up pretty significantly. Surprisingly, everybody's thinking about outdoors and not looking at their homes. So
same with that company.
They've all been really, they've all been really different. And everybody started to think about construction too, I think is partly why. But naturally, with the food and beverage part of our operation got hit the hardest, that's really where I focused most of the efforts to salvage the season. And on the contrary, not only salvage it, but maybe even make the best of it and even take ground if possible in this. And so that's kind of where that Saturday, I think it was March 21st, kind of hit, and I was like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So wrestling through that was a difficult challenge, but also a rewarding one in some ways too.
Segueing into that, what really inspired me
and I think it's going to inspire our viewers as well, is you didn't come out there saying, what can the government give me to survive, right? You came in there offering something for the community, and the 400 for 500 club.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about how you thought of that, because that's the mindset of a servant leader. Is I'm going to let Tim take kind of take the reins here. Just share with us how that came about, how your heart, your growing up, just impacted the community.
Yeah. I think in general, the reason communion exists today, not in these days, but in general, from the very beginning, was the idea of how do I gather my neighbors? How do I bring them together in a meaningful way and encourage relationship, encourage community in direct ways, but also indirect ways. So I think the community at Richardson really existed. It just needed a platform for expression, is the way I describe it. So that's what we set out to do. And so I think during this time, it was easy to continue to validate that reality. The community here is really kind and good and supportive. We just need to give them ways and give ourselves ways to engage and kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
Especially with all the restrictions, it's going to look different.
Yes.
So I was laying in bed Saturday morning, kind of woke up looking at the ceiling like probably the rest of the world. And it's like, what are we going to do? I asked the same question. And generally my response is opportunistic. I'm kind of a, and maybe even a condemning way, an eternal optimist. I'm like, this is great. What are we going to do? How are we going to navigate this?
That's
and
right.
I think my faith really inspires that and
Yes.
informs a lot of that truth of, Lord, you brought this, and so you intend things for good, so let's find the good in this. And
Yes.
there are hard things and repercussions, so it's not all gravy, but there are good things there if we'll look for them.
That's right.
And so that's what I kind of started to wrestle through, is like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make it through this? And not only how are we going to make it through this, but as I mentioned before, how maybe can we even take ground in our community? So this idea of 400 from 500 popped in my head of how do we keep our doors open?
Mm-hmm.
How do we...
Because you're serving your employees.
Serving our employees. How do we keep them employed? How do we pay our bills? And how do we kind of stabilize that for them? How do we serve our community in both a physical way through food, but also even as a source of hope, and say, hey, we're going to weather this together. We're going to stay open if you'll join us. And then the third is like empowering ourselves, but also the community with a resource to serve their neighbor. And that kind of came to fruition in the 400 from 500. And the idea, and my wife challenged the numbers. I was like, I don't know that it makes perfect sense, but it makes enough sense.
Yes.
That we tried to sell 400 membership subscriptions. And at the time, it was a 6-week kind of horizon. So I was like, instead of trying to sell one at a time of these family meals to feed a family of 4, what if we sold 6 at one time?
Yeah.
And that gives us a little longevity, and it kind of creates a movement of sorts. So we tried to sell 400 memberships at $200 a piece for 6 meals. And it's a decent value.
Yeah,
but
a family meal.
Yeah, and
6 family
they're good.
meals.
They're gourmet. I mean, our chefs created them. I mean, they were not like, just rice and beans.
You've got to go to the Communion Cooperative and have the burger. Is my favorite.
It's killer.
I mean, it is. I don't know how many when I was there. 2 or 3 a week.
You kept our burger in business.
I'm still trying to lose the weight from it.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that, but it's like a moth to the flame. Like I keep coming back to it. It's so good.
But that's the thing is, I mean, like I said, these aren't just pack in a bag, simple little meals. These are gourmet meals that are delicious
and thoughtful, and really trying to empower the unity. Because what also is happening is families were having to eat together now in their home. And so if we can take some of that headache even one day a week away and put that on their table and just serve and eat, maybe it'll help them connect even more so in this kind of wild time.
Yeah.
So it was really gathering the community in that way. But the 400 from 500 premise was, we're going to sell 400 of these, which they get a weekly meal. And every week we're going to try to give away 500 total. So 400 of those were sold. And the additional 100
20%.
were benevolence meals that we supplied through the resources of that program. And so we served, I think, over 6 weeks, about 1,800 benevolence meals. And what was really fun about that, we're not like a soup kitchen, which there's nothing wrong with that, but we didn't really want to be that. We didn't want to be responsible for making sure that people got their food. It was more of like, hey, do you know someone who has a need? And like, hey, can I tell you about somebody? We're like, yes, here. And we'd put it like, you go take it. You know them. You know how to step into that.
Tell me a story.
There's several, but one of my favorites was there was a guy in kind of North Richardson that as soon as COVID hit, they just kind of slashed. I think we were about 2 weeks into the program. and they had lost their job. His wife was pregnant,
Yeah.
and they go to Mosaic Church. And so the community of the church kind of came to us and said, hey, there's a guy, do you have a meal? We're like, of course we have a meal. Here,
Yeah.
take it to them. And so the story that circled back was they got to not just deliver the meal, which was a means that day, but
Yeah.
also kind of step into their life a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was a bridge in a crazy time about conversation where we're not supposed to be visiting,
Yeah.
we're all locked down, but in that transaction was hope, was community, was saying, hey, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
We're thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that a lot of times that people aren't used to receiving
Yeah.
a charitable gift, it's
Yeah.
hard to receive that.
That's right.
And so when they just show up and say, hey, it's here, you don't owe us anything, just take it. It's hard for people to understand how to receive charity.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of people in the even mid to upper income that
totally.
that get forgotten.
Yeah,
You know,
this
I
family was,
mean,
they
it's-
were well. They were
yeah.
doing well at the time. And
And we've
then,
looked
like,
at the
flash.
lines of people at trying to get food in the food banks.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
I mean, there's just a huge amount of people that have never been there before, extremely embarrassed. You know,
Totally.
but they need, when they get the love that is offered from people like you, from servant leaders in our community, like the show lines out, the world is in need of a different kind of leader. And the truth behind it is there is a lot of servant leaders out there, and we need to highlight these leaders and learn from them so that we can make impacts in the neighborhood, in our communities.
Yeah. I think leadership a lot of times is a little more than just empowerment. It's a lot more than that in other ways, but
Yeah.
at its fundamental essence, good leadership empowers others to kind of take responsibility. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's as simple as just giving an idea of saying, hey, would you take this meal to whoever you think is affected? They're so empowered, and now they're leading their community. They're investing in those folks. That this guy might be able to lead his family, at least for that day, with a sense and
Yeah.
source of hope. You know,
Yep.
so.
But
I think
not
it's
only that,
empowerment.
you haven't just given him a meal, you've connected him with hope.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well said.
and it's always there.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for doing that, man.
Yeah, it was a
it-
great success.
it-
We didn't hit 400. We hit 370.
Yeah, I've got the
something.
numbers here. We have 4 at the moment on your website, 346 members. Okay, I hope we have over 400 after the show. And the goal is 400. Meals served 8,304, and the benevolence meals 1,384.
Yeah, we need to update those
Congratulations,
numbers. Thank you. We're up over 370, up over 1,800, and
There
then
we
the
go.
total meals served, I'm not sure, but we're still plugging
20%
away.
of that, yeah.
It was a short time, but we're going to continue it on a monthly basis now. So
Yeah.
we've kind of restructured it slightly, where it's just a membership subscription now. And
How far out do you go? Is it mostly in the Richardson community? You're trying to stay close?
Naturally, I think people are inclined to support local, and that's kind of the essence of the mission. Is that I'd love for other people to support their local establishments as well, but of course we want people to come support if they feel
Yep.
inspired by that, or they just want some good food. Come
Yeah.
on, but I also encourage to support local too. But pretty much Richardson.
Yeah.
We did have some people, a guy out of Georgia and a guy out of Canada, and my
Uh-huh.
mom down in South Texas. Some people that said, "Hey, give our meals away. We just think it's cool. We want to subscribe."
That's right.
So that was
That's
really
right.
cool.
Absolutely. So that can be done as well.
Yep.
You know, subscribe if you're anywhere in the country. I wanted to mention like when you pull up your website, it says straight up, serve the community. The first word, serve, support local business, and share hope with our neighbors. Tim, thank you for being a blessing to others, brother. Thank you for being on the show. And it's is there anything else you want to say about communion? How can the community, how can our viewers help you from now as well, other than just supporting the community of Cooperative?
Yeah, I think that's a primary way that supports our staff. Is it perpetuates the idea of selfless acts and leadership within the community. I think encouraging me and our staff and
Mhm.
a good word goes a long way. And the extra step in a conversation with even those that you meet is,
Yeah.
the inclination is, how are you doing? But really say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And really peel back one more layer, because people will tell you, especially now, I think,
Mhm.
I'm not well, or I'm
Yeah.
okay. And just peeling back and really taking that next step into the heart of people
Yeah.
instead of just a superficial passerby conversation. And I think we have a tendency to create almost a negative routine.
Mhm.
When you walk into work, you do your work and go home.
Yeah.
But look for the people along the way, maybe to to inspire and stop for even just a minute and invest in them, I think that can change all of our days and be encouraged by that. So I think servant leadership is just seeing people and taking even just a small interest.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, brother.
Yeah,
It's been a true blessing, and thanks for being on the show, and it's going to be a great one.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the Servant Leadership Show. We'll see you in about 2 weeks. Thanks.